Hello and welcome back to Run Level 0. On today's episode, we're taking a look at the newest member of the Makulu Linux family, this time featuring the Enlightenment or E17 desktop. Before we get started on that though, I'd like to cover some news and tidbits. Now, if you're not familiar with Makulu, Makulu Linux is a Debian-based distribution that aims to provide a complete out-of-the-box experience for the average day-to-day computer user. And they've done a really good job at that. It's one of those systems that I don't hesitate at all to recommend to a new user. Being based on Debian, you know that it's going to be a rock-solid, stable distribution that's going to have plenty of documentation. There's lots of documentation online for Debian. So if there's any way that you want to customize the system, you can do that. You can find documentation on how to implement the changes you're looking to make. Makulu, one of the things that really impresses me about this distribution is how responsive they are to their users. They really listen to what their users have to say, and they try to incorporate those suggestions and those requirements into the new releases of Makulu. And that's very impressive. So many distributions out there are becoming detached from their user base. Makulu stays very close to their users. And I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to say that. I've been very impressed watching Makulu grow. It was first offered with XFCE, then they expanded to KDE, and now you have Enlightenment being offered as a desktop. And this is also my first video review of an Enlightenment desktop, so I'm kind of excited about that too. So let's take a look at some news. On January 18th, Jacques posted that due to some users having problems installing Makulu, he's busy revamping the installer to make it clearer and easier for new users to follow the install steps. You know, I can see that. I can see where some new users would get lost on the installer. But let me say here that the live CD of Makulu does contain an excellent step-by-step installation guide. It's a video format. So if you're new to Linux, even if you're not new to Linux, and you want to install Makulu, I would highly suggest you start there. There's a link right on the desktop. Just follow the installation guide. It'll walk you through it with no problems at all. I'm glad that he's changing the installer up a little bit. I just hope they don't lose the advanced features that come in that advanced installer, because there's some really nice features there. Another tidbit of news, the Makulu Linux repository is about to go live. That's exciting. I'm glad they're getting their own repo. You can see here over the course of the next few days to a week, we'll have its own repository. This is really great news and a big leap forward for the project. Up until this point, I have been very careful of software selection in the distros to make sure that users can always receive updates from available repositories. From this point onwards, however, that limitation will no longer apply. Not only can we offer our own software selection, but we'll be able to send through any patches or updates specific to our distro to users. That's awesome. He's also asking here, Jacques is asking that if there's any specific software that any user would like in the repository, specifically software that is uncommon and not in most other repos, please leave your suggestion below and I'll see what I can do. You know, that last statement, software that's uncommon, that's one of the things that I've really noted about Makulu Linux, is that they offer an uncommon set of software from, you know, just what they offer for their Office suite, for example, and Kingsoft. They really offer some software that I've not seen in any other distribution. It's one of the things that sets Makulu apart from just being another Linux distro. It's another Linux distro that offers some software you really can't find anywhere else. So this brings us to Makulu E17. The big chief is now sporting Enlightenment. So let's take a look at this. What is Enlightenment? Enlightenment is a desktop environment that is really slim. It's really small. It's a really tiny installation, and it's known for being light on its feet. It's very fast. But at the same time, it is also one of the most configurable desktop environments out there. So it really gives you, the user, complete control over your desktop. You can make it look like whatever you want. And it comes with a lot of flash, a lot of eye candy natively. So you're not going to have to install third-party software, whereas, say, for a Mate desktop environment, if you wanted some flash to it, you'd have to install something like Compass to handle your compositing. E17 does all that natively on its own. Let's see, some notes that he has here. Users will find this build much easier to navigate than most Enlightenment builds out there. Now, Enlightenment, although it is highly configurable, is a desktop environment that I don't generally recommend for new users. And I really would never recommend, even in this case, I don't recommend Enlightenment as the desktop of choice for a first user. If you like Makulu, I would say try XFCE first or KDE, and then once you get your feet wet in Linux a little bit, then move on to Enlightenment. Just because there is so many configuration options in Enlightenment, it's easy for a new user to become overwhelmed with configuring the desktop, and we're going to take a peek at that in just a moment. It says it started out as one of his least favorite builds. Enlightenment on the surface is very pretty, fast, and lightweight, but suffers from a lot of vicious bugs, especially with compatibility to integration of other desktop environments, the lack of root commands, a flawed debus system, basic file manager, terminal, no decent menu management system. There's a lot going on here. He put a lot of hard work into the build. There were many nights simply wanted to throw the build into the recycle bin and move on to greener pastures. I can relate to that. Certainly understand fully why not many developers make E17 environments. It's a lot of hard work. I'm glad I stuck it out. I managed to take this flawed desktop and turn it into something usable while adding some features that were seriously lacking. You know what? I agree. I agree with what he's done here. Enlightenment is not a fun environment to work with as far from the developer standpoint. But once you get it working, you can have lots of fun with it. And the fruits of Jacques' labor really shine forth in the E17 version of Makulu. We're going to take a peek at that now. We're going to take a look at some of the changes that he's added. This is Makulu Linux Enlightenment Edition. So let's get logged in. You see it has a beautiful splash screen here. And it boots relatively quick. So we're already in it. And just a few moments, it boots up. So one of the things Makulu is Enlightenment is known for is for being light on its feet and very fast. So in this Makulu edition, one of the things that I really like is how they keep a cohesiveness between the different desktops, from the XFCE to the KDE to the Enlightenment desktop. It's very cohesive. The layout stays as close as possible. The icon set, the wallpapers, it's all pretty much the same, or as close to the same as you can make it using different desktop environments. So if you're coming into Enlightenment from KDE or XFCE, things are going to be in the same place. You're not going to have to go hunting for stuff. He did a good job at keeping things consistent. So you get a traditional desktop layout. You have a couple of icons on the top here. One to my computer, and this is actually I have a disk in the drive. That's what's showing here. Clicking on the My Computer icon will pull open the home folder. Actually, sorry, it pulls open the root of your computer. One of the changes that Jacques made to this Enlightenment's file manager, file browser, I really don't care for. It is my least favorite file browser out of them all. Jacques did a good thing here. He replaced that with Thunar. So we're running Thunar 1.6.3, which is the native file manager for XFCE desktop. So I'm really glad to see that here. It brings a lot more functionality and just an overall more pleasing experience than what natively comes in Enlightenment. That's my opinion. I know some of you out there are going to love the Enlightenment file browser, but you know what? I don't. I really prefer having that Thunar here. I'm glad that he did that. Across the top of the screen, you can see they have the ticker going. This has become standard in the Makulu desktops, and what this does is gives you quick access to the latest news, what's going on in Makulu. So that's a novel approach, and I haven't seen that anywhere else. You have one panel in Enlightenment. This is actually called a shelf. So you have one shelf along the bottom in a traditional desktop layout. Beginning on the lower right, you have the session manager where you can power off, suspend, hibernate, reboot. You're going to notice that the visual effects in Enlightenment are very smooth, not really choppy. This is running in a virtual box, and as with all my other virtuals, I've given it 2 dedicated processors and 2 gigabytes of RAM, and even with that, because of the lightness of Enlightenment, it runs very smooth. It's not choppy at all. So next to the session manager, we have our battery indicator, if applicable. Notification area, where you're going to see if your system needs updates, it'll pop up down here. There is your network monitor, volume control. Let's see what this is. Oh, here we go. That's looks like screen brightness. Control applet right there. You have your calendar and your clock. Your notification area in the middle is where it's going to display any running applications. You see this running here. This is actually control for the RSS feed. It's actually displaying it because it's a running application. So if you want to minimize it, you can just click down here and then pull it back up. You see a nice bounce when the application comes back up. There's lots of visual effects in Makulu, or in Enlightenment rather. Moving on, we have shortcuts to the file manager, and you can see a nice little visual effect there, a little pulsing action. Chromium web browser. You have the terminal. This terminal, let's see, I believe it's GNOME terminal. Yes, GNOME terminal 3.10.1. It's a good terminal. Now this is one thing that I kind of wish Enlightenment has its own terminal that was developed over, I want to say, the last year and a half, called Terminology. Terminology is not installed here, and I could not find it in the repositories because I wanted to show it to you. So that's my suggestion of something I'd like to see added to the repositories would be Terminology, which is it is a advanced Linux terminal that was developed for Enlightenment, and you can do a lot of stuff with it, including seeing previews of thumbnails, watching videos, surfing the web, all that kind of stuff right there, launched straight from the terminal. Not that you can search the web in the terminal, but the terminal will recognize URLs, and you can go to websites right from the terminal, is what I meant. So yeah, I'd like to see Terminology added. It's a fun terminal. Moving on, we have the Task Manager. Let's see, the Software Manager. Software Manager in Makulu, let me go ahead and pull it up, is Mint Install. Mint Install, of course being borrowed from Linux Mint, is one of the more user-friendly software managers. It comes up fairly quickly too, but being categorized where you can search for internet packages, sound and video, science and education, everything being broken down by category, it's going to be very friendly for a new user. But this system also includes the Synaptic Package Manager if you're a more advanced user and like the more power that Synaptic brings to the table. I think you'll appreciate having both. There's also a quick icon to update repositories. So before you do any installations, and this is really one of the first things you should do after your new install, is come down here and update your repositories. That's going to update the packages that are available to you, but it's also going to check for updates at the same time. So that's really the first thing you should do after a new install, is make use of this icon. And moving on, we have the Enlightenment menu. Enlightenment's menu system is a bit different, and Jacques has really gone out of his way to make this a bit more user-friendly by importing the I believe they are GTK or GNOME type menus into E17. So the categorizations here are going to be very familiar to what you may be used to, even though you have to find the applications menu within the main menu. So starting at the top, you can pin favorites. So you have your favorites pinned up here. Drop down one to applications. This is where you're going to find the actual applications menu. And we're going to take a peek at a few things that are installed. Conky Manager is here, which even though Conky is not running on the desktop by default, you can easily add, let's see, let's grab one here, 4-core, let's see what that is. Just by clicking it, it'll bring up Conky right here for you. So you can go into Edit, and you can change it around. You can move it around the screen. You can set any widgets that you want. So any customization that's available for that Conky theme, you can do it right from the Edit. You have several options to run. So I mean, Conky is pretty much a standard for Linux desktops, and the fact that he has gone ahead and installed that and made it available, I like seeing that. And that is available in all the flavors of Makulu. So moving on, we have a link to the file manager, LeafPad, which is an excellent text editor, root terminal. Again, you have a link to the terminal emulator, USB image reader, USB stick formatter, and what these do, obviously USB stick formatter lets you reformat your thumb drive, but the image writer allows you to take an ISO file, that is where you burn a disk for Makulu or any other disk image, and you can write it to a thumb drive, and it makes that thumb drive bootable, so you can do live CDs or installations right from your thumb drive. That's a handy utility to have. If you like those, I would also suggest you check out my video on Multisystem, which is an advanced USB image writer. Alright, so under games, there are lots of games installed. But what I really like seeing is Play on Linux and Steam. I've been having a lot of fun with Steam lately. Yeah, so there's stuff here to keep you occupied in your downtime, your spare time. Under graphics, we have the GIMP, the GNU Image Manipulation Program, an advanced graphics program. You can do pretty much anything you want to in the GIMP. ImageMagick and Pinta are also installed. For Internet, Chromium is the default web browser, and he's done a lot of customizations on Chromium to make it all the more friendly to the new user. Has a nice theme, but you also have your Gmail checker, a Facebook widget, notification area. I believe this is Twitter. Yep, Twitter timeline. There is Google Chrome to phone extension. Just, you have the Fox tab as your home page, a really nice set out, a nice array of shortcuts pre-installed. So he's really paid a lot of attention to detail here. Makulu is a very polished out-of-the-box experience. So let's see, under sound and video we have Audacious, FF Multiconverter, Minitube, VLC Media Player, which that's going to play just about anything you want it to play, folks. VocoScreen is for screencasting. This episode is being recorded with VocoScreen. Let's see, moving on, under Office, you have the excellent Kingsoft Office Suite, which if you're using Linux, you're probably used to seeing LibreOffice or OpenOffice on occasion. Kingsoft is a most excellent Office suite that is fully compatible with Microsoft Office, and it's themable. You can make it look like different Microsoft Office versions. One of the things I really like about Kingsoft is that there's also a version for your Android phone. I don't know if it's available for iPhone or not, but you can install it on your Android device as well. So I like having that continuity between devices available. Under Sundry, let's see, just some Adobe Flash Player settings, menu settings, network and print connections. For System Tools, alright, here we go. Under Administration, there's a backup utility, boot repair, Gparty for managing your partitions. You can customize the grub screen and login window. Again, you have access to the Mint install, but here is that Synaptic Package Manager we spoke about, as well as access to your Update Manager. As far as preferences go, Once again, you have the flash player, your device driver manager. This is a really neat utility as it makes detecting and installing drivers for your hardware very easy. Let's see, manager for your removable drives and media, screensaver control, and another link to update your repositories. BleachBit is installed, and I highly recommend. What BleachBit does is a system clean utility, and I highly recommend that you run this on a regular basis, both in its regular form and running it as root. And that's going to clean up behind you any remnant files that may contain cookies with usernames or passwords, sensitive information that you don't want out there. Go ahead and clean that off your system. It's just another layer of protection. I'm glad that they installed it. You have a bulk rename utility. Oh, here we go. The Enlightenment File Manager is still in here. So let's take a peek at that right quick. This is the Enlightenment File Manager, so if you prefer it, you can use it. I really don't care for it, folks. It's just not all there for me. But if you want to play with it, by all means, give it a shot. So let's see what else we have. The Debian package installer. If you download deb files, this system allows you to, just like in Windows, just double-click the installer and it will install for you. It's a very handy, pretty much standard package installer. Let's see, there's some system information, and Wine is installed, so you can attempt to get those Windows programs installed and running. So that's it for the application menu. But also there's one of the things that I do like about the Enlightenment menu is that you also can navigate right from the start menu. So you click on just the Enlightenment icon, run up to navigate, and you have shortcuts. So you can navigate your file system right from here. So yeah, I really like that is installed, or not really installed, available in the menu. Run Everything will basically launch another version of the it doesn't like VirtualBox. Okay, so it looks like we may have found a bug here. Now I'm not sure if this is actually going to be a bug or if this, there we go, it looked like it was bugging out on me for just a moment. That I'm not really willing to call a bug yet, as I am running this in VirtualBox. It's just something maybe to take a look at on an install version, or it could have just been a one-time fluke. But the Run Everything menu gives you access to all of your applications and just a different menu layout. You can look at all where they're categorized here, look at your applications, and again you can drill down through your menus. Okay, so yeah, it's just a really nice menu system. Click on the desktop, it goes away. Go back down here. Let's see, you can take a screenshot. You have desktop controls. Now we're getting into the customization features of Enlightenment, and I really don't want to go too in-depth into this, because like I said earlier, for a new Linux user, E17 Enlightenment can become frustrating because it is so customizable. It is easy to get lost in the customization options, and you can get frustrated there. You can play around. I would suggest installing it and just playing around with it, but be patient with it, because there is going to be a pretty steep learning curve, especially if you are a new user and if you're not familiar with Enlightenment. But let's see, you can change the gadgets on the desktop. You can add, there is a plethora for you to add. You can add temperature controls. Let's see, let's add that gadget, and you can drag it around. You can resize it, move it, any number of features to it. There you go. So we've added a temperature control. See, very easy. It's not anything. It's not rocket science, but there's just a lot here, and I think that's the thing, is that there's so much available in Enlightenment. It's just easy to become lost. You can control your virtual desktops. Shelves, you can add a shelf, delete a shelf, or configure the current shelf. You can move it around, change its size, its style, add widgets to it, and again, the panels here, that's what we're talking about with shelf. Let's see, looking at Windows, you can clean up the windows. Enlightenment, you can get some, you can restart Enlightenment or exit. For settings, this is your settings panel here, and this is basically the Enlightenment configuration panel. This is where you're going to do the majority of your tweaks and customization. So the way this runs is across the top you have your categories. So right now we're in the look category. From there you have the items underneath. You can change your wallpaper, and that'll pop up your wallpaper control. Okay. So moving over, you can look at apps, screen settings, where your virtual desktop, screen setup, backlight, window controls, menu controls, language options, input. You can just keep moving on and on. You go down to system. This is where you're going to find your system controls. We already looked at that in the system menu, as well as preferences. So this is a complete control panel. There's just a lot going on here. Alright, so let's go back to settings. Under modes, you can go to presentation mode or offline mode. Presentation mode is pretty neat. I'm running it in presentation, and what that's going to do is actually suspend your screen lock and screensaver while it's in presentation mode. So if you're watching videos or whatever, you can go into presentation. It makes it a lot more useful that way, so your screen won't go to sleep on you. You can change your theme, and as you can see, there are a lot of themes installed. Change your wallpaper and hit all of your settings right from here. So there are multiple roads to get to where you want to in Enlightenment. Also, by right-clicking on the desktop, you can also access that main menu. So if you wanted to, technically, you could run this without a panel or with a very minimal panel. So, this has been our look at the Makulu Linux Enlightenment version. My final concluding thoughts, you know what, Makulu's done an excellent job at implementing E17. I would actually consider using this as my primary desktop. In fact, I've challenged myself to use Enlightenment because, actually, on a personal note, Enlightenment is my least favorite desktop environment. So I'm thinking about installing Enlightenment, and this will be my version. I'm going to give it a try for a month and see how I feel about it at the end. But, you know, Jacques has done a really good job at presenting an installation of Enlightenment that is as new user friendly as you can make it. But that said, I still would not recommend this version if you're completely new to Linux. I do recommend Makulu for a new user, but I would suggest that you start out with the XFCE if you're running an older system, or the KDE version if you're running a newer system. And then once you're familiar with Makulu and what it has to offer, certainly move over and give this E17 version a try. Who knows? Enlightenment might turn out to be your favorite Linux desktop. If so, please leave a note in the comments below. Let me know what you think about this. Also, don't forget your suggestions for the new Makulu repository coming online. Go to the Makulu Linux website, and Jacques gives you information on there on how you can make suggestions for additions to that repo. Just be sure that they're reasonable expectations for him to add. All right, well, thank you for joining me today. Please give Makulu Enlightenment a try. Let me know what you think, and I hope to be with you soon for another video.